Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. Hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate all the amazing people who are working so hard to make Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. Hey, listen, I came across this quote this morning from John Wooden, the former legendary basketball coach, and I posted his comment at the Ricky Matthews Show Facebook page with some of my thoughts about it. But in some respects, it sort of speaks for itself. But here's what he said. Be more concerned with your character than your reputation, because your character is what you really are, while your reputation is merely what others think of you. I love that. I think character is incredibly important. And I think if you have good character, you'll have a good reputation. It doesn't always mean that everyone's going to agree with you. In fact, when you're in a position like I'm in and you're willing to say what you think about things, some people aren't going to like that. But I think in the whole, people who listen, while they may disagree from time to time, what they will mostly, I think, agree to is that a lot of the people who we have on this show have character, and we get a chance to see what that looks like. So as I continue to look at this digital history book I get every morning, do a lot of reading as a former publisher. You can only imagine the amount of reading that I do every morning. But I really look forward to these moments in time where they share important stuff from people like Coach John Wooden. Listen, I am so thrilled now. We got a great show, incidentally. Top 10 under 40 winner coming to join us in the second half of the show. Then the mayor of Pass Christian, Jimmy Rafferty, who hasn't been on the show in a while, is about to join me now. Jimmy, how you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, listen, we chatted a little bit about this before the show started, but you recently got married, so I just want to say congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. It's great to be back in the game. Great to be back in the game.
Yeah, well, God bless you, my friend. Looks like y'all had a wonderful honeymoon.
We did. We went on an Alaska cruise, and it's really something when you're kayaking in 40-degree weather. Of course, down here, everything would be shut down, but it's temperate up there. So we had a wonderful time.
It is. That's a special place. Listen, when you and we haven't talked in a while, but I think it's important that when you were elected mayor, you brought 35 years of experience, you really international experience to the table. It gave you a great perspective. Do you, as you continue to do your work as mayor, how often do you draw on that perspective? How often does it become important to you that you have that perspective?
Every day, Ricky. I was in human resources for over 35 years, and I'm finding out that's what politics, that's what it's all about. You got to find a way to bring people together. You're not going to be able to do it all. I mean, when I first jumped in, of course, I had some very, hardened, principles or whatever, but you just can't. You got to reach out. You got to build those bridges. And that's what it's all about, with your older persons and so forth. And that's what I've learned, that and I've been really capitalizing upon these skills that I learned over the years. And we're getting some great things done. The state, we've gotten just unbelievable support from the state. And we were ground zero for Hurricane Katrina. We had, I think, 98% of our businesses, 75% of our homes were destroyed. And with great support and a very resilient community, we're coming back. We still have pockets of our downtown that are grass, and fortunately, we've gotten some great support from our state legislators in helping, bring us back to where we were before the two hurricanes, Camille and Katrina.
Yeah, I mean, big challenges for Pass Christian. What a great story of resiliency it is. Just coming back to your international experience, my son is on the international consulting team for Price Waterhouse out of New York, and was recently in India, and he is in Singapore as we speak on a global Price Waterhouse meeting for a strategy, for their international strategy. But he's a young guy that enjoys kind of seeing the world, and every time he comes back, the perspective that he brings back with him is just incredible. He was always going to be our world traveler, because he went down to the Amazon and did a mission trip. He went down to the Ecuador with Auburn. He's been all over Europe. He lived in Spain for a period of time. But I think when you're the mayor and you've had that international experience, it's not just the HR work that you do, but it's the perspective you've seen so many different places. It gives you some sense of what the goals could be for a place like Pass Christian, doesn't it?
It does. And, I try to bring a business perspective. I mean, I drive people crazy here and asking for dashboards and so forth, and I generate them and I want to see summaries and all. And a lot of these things, they had never seen these things before. But I think that's just the way that I was trained. And I think we're getting some good things done. Like when I meet with the legislators, I'll have a dashboard. These are our requests. And we've gotten very good success, working with Tate, working with Delbert, working with Jason, Mike Thompson, Carolyn Crawford. We've just General Joe Spraggins. He's been a big supporter, helping us build this pedestrian walkway that will eventually go from the Bay St. Louis Bridge the whole way to the Biloxi Bridge. It's a great thing for the coast.
Well, Joe was on my outdoor show, in fact, this past Monday, and he's a longtime friend. When he was working with the National Guard, we were heavily involved in the Gulfport Chamber together, and then he went through all these iterations of his life. Of course, when Hurricane Katrina hit, he had that important role at Harrison County, and worked together in the wake of Katrina, and then in his current iteration. But here's a guy who could have rode off into the sunset a long time ago. I don't know how many different retirements he's got now, but he just wants to keep giving back, and he's continuing to do that. So we're lucky to have someone like Joe Spraggins here.
You're right about that, and he's just been very passionate. Jimmy, look, this is what we need to do to get this thing built, and it's a can-do attitude that's really impressed me.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's no doubt about that. Hey, coming back to the point about dashboards, as a former CEO, this last 16 years of my life, with multi-state responsibilities, I can certainly understand what it looks like to have dashboards in front of you. That's something, certainly new technology is really enabled that in big ways today. But, what I always believed, and I think this is the point that you're making, is that what gets measured gets done. When you can measure something, that means you've got goals around it, and it makes it easier to align people around it. You're speaking a common language. So when you're talking to a legislator or with Joe or with the governor or whoever, there's a common framework for those conversations over time that they can actually relate to. Most people get what gets measured gets done, and it really makes a difference, doesn't it?
It does. In fact, the first time I met with Philip Gunn, I went in and he said, Jimmy, I'm very impressed because I put together a proposal and that had a dashboard for everything. And he goes, Jimmy, wow, this is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this. So, from then, and I've just been, trying to get better and better at it. And then again, it's not only the dashboard, it's really the relationships and, having people, inviting the legislators to come down here to Pass Christian to see what we've been through and so forth. But I just think this state that's what really excites me each day. Is just what's going on in this state and how we can all collectively, do things better.
It's interesting when you have a place. When I was at the Sun Herald, we often referred to Pass Christian as a bedroom community. Bedroom community. Does it deserve that view today, or is there a nice balance between economic development and small business and a bedroom community? How would you describe it?
Well, I think there's still a lot of this bedroom, community mentality here in town, and we're growing. I refer to it as measured growth. We don't want to be Las Vegas, and it's a small town. And I think one of the major accomplishments we had in that regard was all of a sudden this one street we had 7 out of 10 homes were short-term rentals, and you can imagine those 3 homes that weren't. And we got a lot of pushback from those. And fortunately, we got representatives from the entire community. And we were able to put in limits such that now no more than 20% of a neighborhood can be short-term rentals. And we want to keep that small town charm. And we work together to really put this into place. And, of course, not everyone was in favor of it. But then again, the majority of the people here, they like that small town charm. And we're going to do whatever we can to help preserve it.
How is that? I think, boy, it's a tough one, the whole short-term rental thing. But we're a tourist town. We're a tourist region, and finding the right balance there is important because, the truth is we want people to visit our locales, and you don't have thousands of hotel rooms in Pass Christian. So this is a real nice way to sort of supplement that.
That's right. We want to create that balance. We only have roughly 20 hotel rooms right now in Pass Christian. We're about to add another 36 more, but But here again, and we want to welcome, I mean, tourism's a big part of Pasquishan. However, short-term rentals, when you have 7 out of 10 homes and all of a sudden you look out and there are 20 cars parked in a driveway, you can imagine, what sort of, reaction, the permanent residents have. So it's a tough issue, but I think right now we've put the right sort of, limits in place, and we're going to, see how it goes. And also, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
One other thing, we're very fortunate down here. The 3 coastal counties are growing. That's not the case in the entire state. So we're very fortunate in that regard. Let's just say we were in a position whereby we were desperate and needed those revenues, then maybe we might not feel that way. So I think we're very fortunate, given the condition that we're in right now, that we can afford to try to retain that small town feel.
I think that's so important. And I think every community in one way or another wants that too. So they struggle with finding that balance. But this is part of growing up as a community. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with the Mayor Jimmy Rafferty from the city of Pasquishan. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. I have my friend, the mayor of the city of Pasquishan, Jimmy Rafferty, with us. Jimmy, I've had Captain Ronnie Daniel, the charter boat captain, and Rimmer Covington, both on this show and on the outdoor show. And what they have created there in the charter docks is very unique in coastal Mississippi, where family could drop off the members of the family that want to go fishing, and then they could stay parked there if they want to, and then go walk downtown and then take in the town. So the fact that these entities are so close together, and then when they come back, they can clean their fish right there and take them upstairs and cook them in the restaurant. And there's something special about that. In fact, I went over there and spent some time with them a few months ago. Had lunch there and just kind of took it all in, and it's special. And my wife and I, every time we have the opportunity to go and have lunch in downtown Pasquishan, I love that you and I have talked about this before, but I love this notion that each of the cities that make up coastal Mississippi each have their own unique sense of place. Pasquishan's got what it likes. Waveland's coming along quite well these days, considering that it was literally ground zero for Hurricane Katrina. Every city has their metamorphosis that they're going through. But there is really something special about Pasquishan, and you feel it. The people who come there feel it. The people who live there feel it. It's special, isn't it?
It is. And you mentioned, Ronnie Daniels, he's built the most formidable, fishing operation really in the country. I think that was ranked the highest. And then, of course, Rimmer Covington with Shaggy's Restaurant, that's an integral part of the city. And having those united, too, just makes a really an unbelievable setup that we have here, and a big attraction. And for everyone, come really avail yourselves of this, because it's a wonderful experience to go out and go fishing, right south of Pasquishan.
And then, again, you have somebody like Rimmer, who has been a charter boat captain down out of Venice. He's done it all, and then he goes on to be successful in the work that he's doing. But you got a guy there who brings a perspective. He brings a vision, and then you get this great collaboration with Captain Ronnie Daniel, who says, "Man, this is what we can do," and they work together and they actually pull it off, and it's special. I would say for anyone who hasn't been down to Pasquishan Harbor to see the charter docks, you should go down there and take a look, have lunch while you're in town. See what Jimmy and I are talking about. Pasquishan has really evolved, and I think the recovery from the storms, because people learned after Hurricane Katrina that buildings don't make a community, the people do. Right. And there are a lot of people in Pasquishan who had no intention of going anywhere except Pasquishan. And when you've got able people who come together to rebuild a city, it's special. It's special what's happening there. It really is. Hey, so when you talk to people about sort of the financial side of the city these days, the fiscal side, how are you guys doing?
Well, we're doing extremely well. And as I mentioned, we've gotten great support as far as grants to help rebuild our downtown. Also, our sales taxes are growing. We're very fortunate. We have a Walmart. They comprise about 2/3 of our sales taxes, and we're very fortunate to have that. And then we have, we new businesses. It just so happens with these grants. For example, last year alone, we had, 5 new businesses opened up in Pasquishan. So that's a really good thing. And that's a good sort of, the barometer on really what's going on here on the coast.
Hey, one of the things that I'm going to be talking with Hank Zuber, Representative Hank Zuber, about is going to be on tomorrow's show, Thursday. And this show is airing on Wednesday. So so one of the things we're going to talk about is the mitigation legislation that was passed that will be able to give grants to people to mitigate their homes. Given the insurance crisis that every coastal community is facing these days, the cost of insurance, but the rising cost of flood insurance and just overall, comprehensive coverage on their homes. That mitigation program, I think, is going to be really, really popular. How often does the insurance situation become an impediment to the city?
Well, that's an impediment. I mean, we still have a lot of empty lots along Highway 90. And, one of the big deterrents for building will be insurance right now. You look at one of those homes, I guess $1 million home, whatever, it's $30,000 a year or so for insurance. I mean, 80% of Pasquishan is in a flood zone. So you can imagine, what we're up against. I was also in a conference last week. Mike Cheney, chaired it on extreme wind conference,
Yes.
in Biloxi. It's just amazing how we're trying to get some key learnings from maybe Alabama or, in fact, there are a few counties in Alabama that I think have these fortified building requirements.
Yeah.
That might be a way to go. So that's, one of the things that, our code enforcement department is going to be looking at over time, because if you're able to spend a little more money, in building your home in a fortified capacity, then you'll be able to, save on the insurance. But no, it's really a big item here.
Yeah, this legislation to create grants for fortification to get to gold standard is actually tailored after what they did in Alabama.
That's right.
And they've done some really good stuff there. Actually, when I was the publisher at the Mobile Press Register, I was actually involved in some of those efforts, and led by a guy named Carl Schneider, and he is an absolute beast when it comes to insurance and fortification and understanding how to reduce the risk so we can get rates down. And we're beginning to have those kind of conversations here in coastal Mississippi in a really big way. How is it going? It's a team effort because you got a city council you got to deal with and so on. So how's that going? How's the sense of team spirit there?
Well, I think we're getting better over time. It was a challenge when I first came on board, but you have to learn. It's not about you. You need to learn to work as a team, and each person, has different views, so forth. And how my way of operating is I try to build a rock solid business case. That's the way I do it, and that's the only way. I mean, we had, this parking lot in downtown. It took us over a year, to get the third vote and on the board, but we finally got it. We built the rock solid. We got the business support and so forth, and it's amazing. One of the businessmen said, "You know what, Jimmy? I wouldn't have built this new business if the city had not gotten, that parking lot." So that's when it's right.
Yeah.
But things take time, and you have to be patient, persistent, and positive.
It's hard a little bit actually when you come from a corporate environment. It's hard knowing that you've got democracy can be messy. I mean, that's the reality. You know that.
Yeah.
So, you feel like you've kind of managed your way through some of those rough waters.
Yeah. Well, yes, because I know, I formulated a strategy, and it's really, it's aligning yourself, with the older person. What you have to do is you have to make it worthwhile. And that's one of the things that right now I just make it. For example, if anybody comes to my attention and you see employees, they want something, I say, okay, let's work together. Let's build a business case, and then we'll present it to the board. So, that's a strategy that I had to learn. That's a little different. Whereas, in business, usually you build a rock solid business case and usually it can go right through. But now you get into different views and so forth. How will this impact, my ward or whatever? So there's just a lot more factors that you need to take into consideration in government versus, the private sector.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Hey, you mentioned about the Walmart being, I think you said 2/3 of your tax base. Have you contemplated what it would be like if you didn't have Walmart?
Well, let me tell you, when our former mayor Chipper McDermott, it was an institution here in town. In fact, after Katrina, when it was wiped out, Walmart was considering not coming back to Pasquishan, and he really went out on a limb and he managed to save it. And it's over 2/3 of our sales tax, well over $1 million. Just Walmart itself. So can you imagine, when you have an $8 million budget, how much that comprises, how important that is. So we're just very, very fortunate, and they have a great team over there. They do a lot of charity events. They'll have people right there, and they allow them to get right at their door. So they're really a great partner.
It would be a tough situation without it. Listen, this guy named Robert J. Danzig, who used to be the CEO for the Hearst Corporation, once said that there's a powerful lubrication to change that comes from pain. Okay? So depending on how much pain you have determines how much you're willing to change. So could you imagine how you'd have to recalibrate your whole thoughts about your tax base if you didn't have Walmart there? So it does enable you to be able to do this thing you mentioned earlier about fostering measured growth and trying to sort of manage this bedroom community with the measured economic development. It does enable that, doesn't it?
It does. And you mentioned the measured growth. I gave this one presentation of the Historical Society, and the average age was much older, the per capita age. And I gave this presentation on growth in Pass Christian, and I guess I didn't do a good enough job of articulating my vision of measured growth, because if they had had a bag of tomatoes, they would have thrown them at me. so now I have to be very careful about that. That really, in fact, we just only yesterday, front page of the Sun Herald, we were named, Market Beat, rated Pass Christian as being one of the top 50 most coveted retirement destinations in the U.S.
Yeah.
And what was so amazing about that, they also, projected a 3% growth for Pass Christian. So, that's something that, I'm going out and letting people know, we're not off the charts with growth. Right now we're growing in a very measured way, and we're going to keep that small town charm.
Jimmy, I should have actually added a whole hour for this conversation. We'll get back together really soon. We won't let there be such a long gap between this time and the next time we get together. But until we meet again, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you. And
thank you for all you do for the coast.
You bet, man. My pleasure. This has been Mayor Jimmy Rafferty from the city of Pass Christian. Hey, when we come back, a top 10 under 40 One Coast winner. We'll have a great conversation with Kelsey Kell. We'll see you after this.